Hey there, Fellowship family. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things church life. I'm Mark Francis, once again, your host for today. I'm excited to be in the podcast booth again this week because I have a couple new faces to chat with. We've been hearing about the Sanfords for months now, and they are now finally here in person.
It's not a figment of your imagination.
Not a figment of the imagination. When I have Tim Sanford and Sue Sanford. How are you guys?
We are doing great.
Good. Yes.
So I'm catching you right on the tails of the big move.
Yes.
So hopefully you guys have awoken from the chaos.
We haven't recovered yet.
Recovered yet.
No, we're still.
Yes. Second day on the job here at FBC for us. So as you're watching and listening to this, just keep in mind that this is very new to have you guys here in town. So you might need to remind me because this is even new for us. So it's going to be you're the Pastor of Discipleship.
Yes.
Is your title.
Yes.
And there's an ongoing joke here at Fellowship Bible Church. You might have heard, but it's always about when Tim comes, X, Y, and Z will happen.
Okay.
When Tim comes, this will work out. When Tim comes, this changes. So if you haven't heard that yet,
I haven't.
I think John Van Drunen is going to make a T-shirt for all of us to say, Tim is now here.
So funny.
So there is a lot of things,
pressure.
a lot of anticipation for your arrival. So I want to give
nervous.
Now we're getting nervous. Yes. But I just want to give the congregation the opportunity to get to know you guys. So enough of me talking. I'll open it up. Just walk us through. Just tell where are you from, first of all? And maybe this is a two-part question. One for Sue and one for Tim.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. Grew up not too far north of here, probably about 4 hours, I guess, of drive. So, grew up in a Christian home and in a missions organization my parents were involved with. So knew about the Lord at an early age, got saved at an early age. And really growing up in that environment, it was kind of, I'll say, an unwritten or an expectation that, you're going to follow along in missions kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I had other things that I wanted to do. And so there was struggles of all that kind of stuff. Ultimately ended up going to Bible school in Michigan. And that's where we met because she grew up in that town.
Well, and I think first, you went to Venezuela and that kind of was the thing that made it
real. Made it real so that was something I wanted to do rather than just what was expected. But But that's where we met.
So you grew up in
I was
Michigan.
only 5, 6.
Rogue, of course.
We didn't get married for a while.
I'm in trouble with the law now.
Anyway, so I grew up in the town where the Bible school was in Jackson, Michigan. And so my parents, when I was 15, decided to sell everything, move across town, and go to Bible school and become missionaries. So I told them I would go and not give them any trouble, but I just did not want to do that. We all called it the Indian place, and it was just weird to us. But but while there, I saw just the coolest change in my dad especially, and my mom too, but just learning to walk with the Lord. And so just seeing that change as a teenager and my parents was huge for me. And so they had asked each of us to consider going to Bible school for 6 months after graduation. They didn't care what we did with our life, they would be supportive. They just asked that we do 6 months of Bible somewhere. So I really did not want to do that, but I ended up humbling myself and telling him I would do that. And so I went to Bible school and that's where we met. And so, I actually sometimes wonder if I got saved in Bible school. I feel like I was raised in a Christian home. I knew the gospel. I mean, I did the say the prayer thing. I went forward every week in Awana, because you're scared you're going to go to, So I just thought, okay, but in Bible school is when I really understood the big picture. And so I don't know. Lord knows. But
Well, so how many students are at that Bible school at any given time? Which
It was
is
around 150.
it still? I mean, it's still there today. No, it's not.
No, it actually. So the organization had 2 Bible schools, one there and one in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And just in the last couple of years, I guess it's been
2 years
that they shut that Jackson one down and merged all together over in Waukesha. We were serving there the last 10 years. That's part of our whole journey.
Okay, we'll get to that story. Yeah. So a small amount of students, 150 at a time.
Very small college. Yeah.
Good place to meet people then, I'm assuming.
Yes. So the organization was called New Tribes Mission at one time, right?
Yep.
And so that place, they would teasingly say it's New Tribes Bridal School.
Okay.
Because there were so many people getting engaged.
I think there were 13 couples our semester.
Our semester.
That were engaged. It was like,
it's a race to the finish line.
So if you guys met, then how long did it take to progress to where you got engaged and got married?
Well, we met actually at like my high school. I was the end of my high school year when he came in. So he came in the January semester. So that was my last semester of high school. So we kind of started hanging out a little around the time I was graduating in May.
Yeah.
So we dated from May and then got married the following August. Not that August, but the following
little over a year.
Yeah. So did you graduate together or separate classes?
We were separate classes, but I graduated early with his class because he actually was going to flight school. And so in order to go do that, we needed obviously to go together. So so I just graduated with his class and we went to flight school for him.
And then what's the next steps? Obviously, you have this heart for missions, a heart for just sharing the gospel to those around. So when you graduate and you get married, then kind of what are the next steps that then lead you into ministry?
Well, for us, like I felt like the Lord wanted me in aviation, missionary aviation. So we had to go get all that training. And that was in Grand Rapids. So that's what she's referring to. We spent the next 3 years up there in a church, youth leaders, that kind of a thing, while I was also getting all this training. And then when we were done with that, then we came back into the New Tribes training, and they have what they call their Missions Institute. It's the middle phase. And we did that in Canada and loved it there, learned a lot, grew a lot. And then typically you would go, then the next phase would be like a language study kind of thing. But because we were in the aviation wing, we went to Arizona and they have specialized training there. So we did all of that stuff. And then we were assigned to the Philippines to go there and serve. And it was right in that whole process that my dad was terminally ill, passed away. And right around that time, then the organization asked us to stop doing what we were doing and go back to where we had been in training in Canada. And we went on staff there and began to teach and train. And we did that for almost 10 years, I guess it was. Finished that and got back into the aviation again, thinking, okay, now we're going to pick up where we left off and keep going. And went through all the training again and were assigned to Venezuela. And, people may not remember, but Venezuela was going through real political issues at that time. Yeah. Our organization got pretty much kicked out of the villages. So aviation was no longer needed down there. And at that time, we were asked again to go back to Arizona and join the leadership team there.
You're bouncing all over the place.
Oh, we have moved so many times.
This is our 20th move.
So the move into Winchester is piece of cake.
No, it was not a piece of cake. We actually, when we moved to Michigan, we thought, this is it. My whole family's there.
Yeah.
We settled in. We were really thinking that was it. Yeah. So this was a big move for us.
Well, when you say aviation, does that mean that you're flying the planes?
Yes.
So you're a pilot.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. In our organization, they want you to be a pilot and a mechanic. So you have to get training on both sides of that.
And a missionary.
Yes.
And a pastor.
It's the longest for New Tribes' training. It's the longest amount of training that it's about a 10-year process.
Wow.
To go through all that. And so, it's long and expensive and hard. But those were growing years for us, right? Yeah. More than what we probably even knew.
I think, too, when we were in the missions training part of things, like you had grown up and the flight had kind of started where he grew up. And so it was kind of like a novelty. And there was this thing about flying, but I think as we were there in the missions training, he began to realize how much he loved teaching, discipling. Yes. So we actually talked to the staff there about it. Like he did. He said, man, I'm just feeling this, urge to like want to teach and be with people and not necessarily just flying in and out, and they said, I mean, how we handled it, how they kind of said, when you go into the bush, you'll be ministering to the missionaries. And that was great. So it was like, okay, well, let's go do that. But then the Lord just really turned it.
Yeah.
And when we ended up going back there, and I think when we went back there on staff, we were very young to be in the missions leadership training. We were 24 and 26 at the time, which is extremely young. But there was a team there that was so fabulous about mentoring us. Yeah.
Neat. Yeah, so you were able to get poured into.
Yes.
For sure.
People.
For sure. Yeah.
Really, no matter where you were, kind of have that family atmosphere of that. Yeah. That's great. Well, let's talk about family. So as you're bouncing around from place to place, you married, and I know at least one of your sons, Ben here, Ben Sanford is here on staff, and many of you guys who are watching, listening might know him, or you might not because he's behind the scenes in tech booth and production world. Talk to us about your family, children, and how many? What are the names?
We have 4 original kids, and then we now have 4 more. So they're all married now.
Right.
And so our oldest daughter and her husband live in Michigan, and he is a fabricator. And they actually are thinking of moving out here to Winchester, too. They're planning to move out in the fall. They have 4 children now. And so, they're just a really neat couple, and we're super happy they're coming because we had to say goodbye to them in Michigan. That was really hard. Yeah. So then our oldest son, the next one down, he and his wife are now in Pennsylvania. They were with the same mission that we were with before, and were in Papua New Guinea last year. Had a lot of medical things happen over there, and so they're home getting those figured out, but they're now only 3.5 hours away, or 4 or so, with their 2 little girls, which is fabulous. And then we have another daughter who's in Missouri with her husband. He is a general contractor, builder, and so they are living there. And they actually, before we were even talking about here, they'd been talking to Ben about moving here after they were in Missouri for a year. So they already had plans to come. So we're hoping
we're being inundated.
Sanfords are taking over.
Winchester's being inundated.
Yes, well, that's great.
So then, and then Ben and Ashley. So we're so thrilled to be here. And even just with Ben and Ash getting to be living near them, just getting married, we're planning all sorts of fun things together. What we're going to do.
Well, we're definitely excited to have you here. Yeah. And so I'm not sure where we left off with the story of you bouncing around from place to place, but walk us through these last few years, even of your ministry, and it seemed like God was leading you into more teaching role, into something that was more of a permanent, not as much traveling around kind of role. Am I right about that?
Well, like I had been involved clear back from when we returned to Canada. That was 10 years of just solid teaching stuff. And then when we got back into the aviation, so the aviation department started back with some guys who had come out of World War II, and aviation itself is very regimented, and so the atmosphere of that whole department was very, I'll say strict, right? And as an organization, we were recognizing there needs to be some more grace that's impacting this.
Interesting.
So when I came on board there, that began a process over the next 10 years of trying to change that culture too. So there was a lot of teaching involved and a lot of travel to all these different countries where we were located. So that was another, we've kind of been working in 10-year increments pretty much. So when we finished there, then we moved back to Jackson, Michigan, where the Bible school was at. And I, again, took on a full-time teaching role there. And we love that. That's one of the things that I love about teaching is it helps people connect with you. Hey, can I talk to you about something you're teaching on? And all of a sudden you're into life stuff with them. So, but when we moved back there was something about that we just felt like, you know what? I wonder if the Lord is leading us out of this organization. And we didn't really pursue that. It's not like we were aggressive or anything. But, Ben moved out here and he's like, hey, you guys need to move out. And we're thinking, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, we were contacted by the church in regards to Woodstock and the whole thoughts behind that. We came out, met, and prayed about it and felt like, no, that's not what we think the Lord wants for us. And returned back to it and kind of didn't give it any more thought until, again, we get a call saying, hey, what about this whole discipleship thing? Well, that's what we've really been doing in all of these different contexts. So it just, Lord led us down that path. And
it was really cool because when we came out for that meeting with the whole Woodstock idea and things like that, one of the guys was talking about, Ben came to do the internship here, right?
Yeah.
And so we were really impressed by that internship and how he was being mentored, knowing that like we had really benefited from people speaking into our lives and really loving what he was, how they were doing that. So when we were sitting in that meeting and one of the guys said something about, and if you came, and down there, you could also maybe be a part of the internship program. And I'm like, oh, that is what we would love, discipleship. We just love to disciple and be with people and that kind of thing. But that just didn't, at the time, didn't really work out. And so this time, when they called and said, hey, just where are you guys at? What are you doing? That kind of thing. We felt like that was just a really good fit for us. We're excited about being here and being a part of what the Lord's already doing here. Really already doing here. So.
It's neat to see how God works and how he prepares you for the next step, whether that's happening or not.
That's right. Exactly.
And so, and he equips you to be able to have that ability to be able to have that next step, be fruitful. So I'm curious, like, if I ask you both, what are you passionate about? What is it that drives you? What is it that motivates you each day? What are you passionate about?
Well, my first word would be Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
Like that verse where it talks about, I said this in one of the meetings before, and I can't remember the two disciples. It's Andrew and James or something, who it says, that the people were in awe because they were uneducated men, but they had been with Jesus. And I think that's for me over these last years, just like, that's my passion. It's like, this world is tough. Circumstances are tough, but, our fellowship with the Lord and that relationship with him, that's what gives us hope and joy and all of those things that the world's missing. And we just want so desperately for people to know that in the midst of all of this hard things that happen in the world, there is hope and there is joy, and it's a relational thing with the Lord. So
I think too, like, we were so benefited by people investing in our lives. I can think of a handful, 5 guys or so that I would call them mentors, all 10 years or more older than me, loved us enough to walk through life with us, speak into situations, open up their lives to us. And I think like, we've benefited so much, I think, by that. I think we've grown in our understanding of the Lord and a love for him. There were times, I think, earlier on in our adult life where we were probably, can I say, more obedient than loving, of the Lord. And I think over the years, he's been teaching our hearts about himself, and we've fallen in love with him more and more. And so that process of investment in our lives has been, I would say it this way. I'm not, I hope this comes across well.
We might need to edit this.
Yeah. No,
I'm not passionate about discipleship. Mm-hmm. I'm passionate about like what she's talking about as far as the Lord and his life being lived out in mine. Uh-huh. And discipleship is a means to help see some of that happen. Right. So ultimately we get involved in all of that, but it's like, I say it this way. It's like the Lord gives you a front row seat of what's going on in another person's life as he is, because really, obviously, it's him doing it, right? As he is changing them and conforming them into the likeness of his son, you get to be a part of that. And
you're a vessel. You're being used by God in that way. Yeah. And you know what? There's something going on internally within yourself when that's happening as well.
Yes.
So it's not just a one-way street.
Exactly. Yeah. And to me, this is an ironic thing. So when I was way back to Bible school, they had a evangelism program and you had to go out, it was street witnessing kind of stuff. I hated it. Part because I didn't want to like talk to somebody on the street like that, but in part because there was this one guy who had the semester before us who had done that and someone had gotten saved and now he was discipling that person. And I heard about that and I thought I would never know how to do that. So this is weird. I didn't want to witness to somebody because I was afraid they'd get saved and then I would have to disciple them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I was afraid. And isn't it ironic that when we look back on the history of our lives, we see discipleship is the place where he's been putting us. The very things that we're afraid of at times, he helps us to realize, you know what, with him. Yeah. Because really, again, sometimes you're sitting there going, Lord, what do I say in this moment? And he gives you something to speak that reaches the heart of that individual. You don't even know, sometimes.
I think you've already touched on this, but put into maybe more definitive words, discipleship. It's a nebulous word, especially in Christian circles.
Yeah, it is.
Different people have different ideas of what it looks like. Even here for fellowship, we talk about it a lot. We want discipleship to take place, and how are we? We're here to prepare and deploy dependent disciples is our name. Just so unpack that word a little bit for us, and then at the same time, how you see what you think you're called to do here, or pastor of discipleship.
Sure.
And I understand, I've been here on staff for several years, and I can understand roles change and evolve as God leads. But just in this place right now, what does that look like to you?
I would say, I think that's a great question because I think that there's, in my opinion anyways, a lack of understanding. I think that people think that discipleship is very formal. Right. I think they think that you're supposed to put this in your life and put this in your life. And at the end of the day, if you shine a ultraviolet light on it, so to speak, like you actually find out, well, that's a lot of performance oriented kind of thinking. Right. And so, and we get pretty proud over that because I've got those things checked off. But I look at that and say, discipleship is really helping an individual follow after the Lord. And sometimes that means that they have to kind of follow you as you follow the Lord. Sometimes that means they learn from your mistakes and that kind of stuff. But it's an openness with them so that they're free to be open back with you, and where the Spirit of God can begin to chisel away at the areas of need, at helping them to understand more truth, new truth, whatever, so that they're growing and maturing, right? Like I think of, what is it in Matthew where he says, teaching them to observe all things. Well, what in the world does that mean? Like, it's not just with your eyes to observe, it's to put it into practice, right? And there's something, I think what we benefited from those mentors was they helped us to tie a truth to a practice and put those two together. What I was going to
say, applying truth to your everyday life.
Yes.
I feel like that is discipling people to apply what we know, because a lot of us have been raised in church and heard things, but applying it to my everyday thinking throughout the day, decisions I'm making. And
because you're going to hear this time and time again from us. It's a little saying, your thinking determines your attitude, which determines your actions, right? So there's a need for our thinking to be changed. No wonder he says, think on these things, let this mind be in you, like all of that kind of stuff. That's going to actually affect a settled conclusion and attitude that I have. And guess what? My actions are going to flow out of that. We get that reversed and we think, well, we got to stop these particular actions. We don't realize the problem is clear back here in our thinking, right? So I feel like, I know that the elders and pastors are talking about all this. Some of this is still going to be developed out, but I understand that I'm going to be more involved with obviously doing some discipleship myself, but trying to encourage and help others do that as well. If there's training that they need or encouragement or whatever, help, so that everyone is looking at themselves as a person who needs discipleship, right? But also someone who's able to disciple another. Every one of us should be in a position where we kind of look back on life and see somebody else traveling that life. And we're able to invest because it's, again, something I think that the Lord is doing through us.
Part of I'm hearing is also just having an awareness as an individual, having our antennas up, our radar up to where when a situation, it could be, on a golf course with somebody. It could be at somebody's house, you're just hanging out. It could be you end up just inviting a neighbor, hey, let's just go on a walk. It doesn't have to be an intentional, we're sitting down in a church classroom one-on-one with a book and go through it. Now, that's great as well. And there's time and place for that. But it's, I think, just having an awareness of life and the circumstances that we as believers are called to disciple on an ongoing basis.
It comes in so many contexts. It's just not one context.
And we're all doing it. If you're a parent, you're already discipling your children, right? Or you ought to be anyways, right? Like, and you don't think of yourself as someone like that. And so, I could never do that. You're passing on what you've learned in life. Well, this is no different in the spiritual realm, right? Like, what is God teaching my heart? And am I willing to share that with others and pass that on so they begin to glean some of that too? And
do it in a way that maybe does become more intentional down the road. And that sounds what you're at this point in life right now, where you're realizing this is a calling. I want to be more intentional in how I work with others and disciple others and train and pass on what God has shown me. But from a heart of anybody at FBC, it's just, I just hear you saying just awareness of just the situational moments that you can have, whether it's one-on-one, one-on-two, community group level, in the lobby at FBC, after church, talking with somebody. Hey, how are you doing? How's life going? What has God been teaching you lately? It just ramping up the spiritual conversations a little bit more, to have that God awareness.
And I think too, when we truly are caring about a person, because we believe that God cares about that person, right? Like that, what you're describing is just going to be part of the flow of that. If we think of them as a project, now I've got to have my formal and I've got to have all this stuff together, right? And I'm worried about all that kind of stuff.
I have to have the answers for the questions they might throw me.
But when it's personal, you think of the Lord, again, walking with his disciples, right? And everything that you read in the Gospels about that, there's just this interaction that he has with them and ebb and flow and teach. Oh, hey, what were you guys talking about there? Right? Oh, my word. We don't want to tell them what we were just talking about. Who's the best in the kingdom here, right? And all that kind of stuff. It just, it's the life of Christ. Being displayed in our mortal body, flowing out through us, right?
That's great.
Amazing stuff.
And it's him that will do the work.
That's right.
Right, exactly. All the empowerment is done with him in the Spirit to lead us and guide us. Well, I'll give you just one opportunity just to share with the congregation listening, what nuggets would you want to say? Just the welcoming, we'll be welcoming you, but is anything that you think that you'd want to pass on to us, just kind of your excitement of being here?
We are definitely excited to be here.
We are looking forward to meeting all of you. And we want to have you in our home. And I know there's a lot of you. Might take a while, but we really are excited to get to know people, and our family is coming and going to be here. And we honestly, the biggest thing that the Lord has laid on my heart is in going through Acts has been Barnabas. And it talks about Barnabas. They sent Barnabas because he was a good man. And that word good was health giving. And I think that's what we desire to be, is in any context that the Lord puts us in, we would love to be health giving. And if he chooses to use us that way, we are on board. You know, if he doesn't, then that's okay too. But that's what our hope and prayer is, that somehow we can be health giving.
That's great.
Being sent here by the Lord. So
that's great. Well, we're all excited to have you. As I said, when Tim comes, here we are. Things will happen. No, but we're excited. I'll be honest, there was a buzz in a positive way when you came and had a sermon. That was several weeks ago. From the pulpit, and just the excitement of hearing what your passion and excitement is, and now we get a chance to hear from Sue and hear the accent. Yes, it's amazing. I mean, we're here in the South now in Virginia.
Yeah, she's going to change that, won't she?
I know. My kids used to come up and say, "Mom, say dollar." Dollar? I don't know.
But it's great, you know, just the freshness of having new faces here, because yes, it is sad that we are losing a couple of our recent pastors, you know, John and Charlie, and recently Don. So now to have the fresh faces and voices here with you guys.
We missed out on them.
Yes, I know. I know, as we've gotten to know them.
Well, we are excited because I know that there will be some times in the summer where you will be in the pulpit. So we'll hear more about that down the road. Just throw you right into the fire.
I know.
Right
Mark,
away.
He doesn't waste any time.
No.
We're at it.
He's like, I got vacation to do.
That's right. So how about you doing it? Okay.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us here. And we're excited to get a chance to continue to know you here at FBC over the many, many years to come. And for you guys watching and listening, thanks for being a part of the podcast. Submit your questions, you know, keep letting us know what you want to hear from. We are going to be continually sharing more stories from people here at the church in the next couple of weeks. So, for all the other podcasts, go to the Sermon Spotlight one, the Global Church one. There's great stuff happening over there with our missions program as well. So thanks for watching and listening. And until we chat again, let's let Christ be the focus of our lives each and every day.